The filthiest job. Expanded near to the dawn comes quietly, unannounced, as a dense fog rolls through the winding streets of the medieval town. The sound of distant church bells tolling marks the break of morning, but the air remains thick, laden with the weight of the night's refuse. Beneath the mist, the narrow cobbled roads, barely wide enough for a cart, lie hidden beneath the remnants of the town's waking hours. The smell is the first thing you notice. A cloying, putrid scent hangs in the air like a forgotten memory, as if the city itself were covered in a layer of grimy dust, absorbing everything it touches. At the break of dawn, the city is alive in the quietest of ways. A solitary figure moves along the stone streets, cloaked in a tattered hood that obscures their face. Their name, like the faces of so many in this town, is unimportant to the world at large. They are a figure in the background, one of the invisible workers, a nameless soul burdened with the task of cleaning the filth left behind by a city that never rests. They are a street cleaner, a sewer sweeper, a collector waste, and they have always been one, from the moment they could remember. Their steps are slow but purposeful, the soles of their worn shoes making faint scraping sounds against the stones, which are slick with the morning's moisture. The figure holds a long wooden broom, its bristles matted and damp from the night's toil. With each stroke, they push the waste into piles that will eventually be carted away, but never truly erased. It is an endless cycle. The refuse accumulates. The streets grow crowded with the detritus of human life. Discarded food, broken pottery, rotten fruits, spoiled meats, and it is the worker's duty to push aside, to clear a path for the people who will walk through these streets later in the day, unaware of the toil required to make their world feel clean. As the worker moves deeper into the heart of the town, they pass by the marketplace. The stalls are empty for now, the awnings folded, waiting for the vendors to set up shop. The air is still thick with the smell of waste, spilled wine, sour bread, the rot of animal carcasses left behind by the butcher. The worker's broom moves methodically, brushing through the filth with steady precision, though they do not hurry. There is no need for haste in this work. It is a quiet, meditative labor. In the early morning, before the sun has fully risen, there is an eerie stillness to the world, a hush that falls over the city. And for a moment, the worker is at peace with their task. The streets are their canvas, and with each sweep of the broom, they bring order to the chaos of the night. But the peace is fleeting. As the sun begins to rise higher in the sky, the city awakens and the street comes alive. The first merchant arrive, their carts clattering down the cobblestones, their voices calling out as they set up their stalls. The town is stirring, but the worker remains unnoticed, blending into the background like the dirt and grime that clings to their clothes. There is no thank you, no acknowledgement of the labor they have performed. The work of the street cleaner is invisible, a quiet service that no one thinks about until the streets are no longer clean. The worker pauses for a moment, leaning against the side of a building to catch their breath. The broom feels heavy in their hands, the worn wood creaking slightly under the pressure. They look around the streets they have swept, now filled with bustling activity. The smell of fresh bread baking, the sharp scent of fish being unloaded from crates, and the earthy odor of the market goods fill the air. The people, in their hurried movements, seem oblivious to the grime beneath their feet. The piles of refuse the worker has cleared. To them, the streets are simply the space in which they conduct their lives, a necessary element of their daily routines. But the worker knows the truth, that the streets are only clean because of the work done in the dead of night, in the quiet hours before dawn, when the city sleeps and forgotten labor of the invisible ones takes place. The workers' fingers ache as they grip the broom tighter, but they continue, pushing through discomfort, driven by the rhythm of their task. Their skin is rough, cracked from years of handling the filth of the streets. Their hands are stained with dirt, the blackness of the muck embedded under their nails, and the calluses on their palms are thick and painful, a permanent reminder of the work they do. The cloak they wear, once a rich shade of brown, has faded over time, the fabric now threadbare and stained with streaks of filth. The dirt has become part of them. There is no distinguishing where the street ends and they begin. Their clothes are not for warmth or comfort, but simply for survival in a world that cares little for their existence. They wear their grime like armor, a protective shield against the world's disregard. As the worker pushes forward, the streets grow busier. Children run past them, laughing as they chase each other through the alleys, oblivious to the work that went into making the streets safe for their play. The baker's daughter, with her bright, clean face, walks past the worker, her eyes fixed firmly ahead, avoiding any eye contact. She is used to the street cleaner's presence, just as she is used to the smell of stale bread in the air, or the way the cobblestones are always slick with the remnants of the day before. The people of the town have learned to ignore the filth that surrounds them, for they see it as a part of life, something that is always present but never truly acknowledged. They do not see the worker. To them, the streets are simply there, and it is only when they are blocked or impassable that they will think about the labor that keeps them clear. But there are moments, fleeting moments, when the worker is more than just an anonymous figure, when they can feel the weight of their task pressing down on them, when the realization settles in that they are the ones who bear the brunt of the city's dirt and waste. They are the ones who, in the silence of night and in the early morning hours, bear the burden of the filth that everyone else leaves behind. And yet, when the day begins in earnest, they are forgotten. Their presence is inconsequential as the dust beneath their feet. By midday, the town is in full swing. The air is filled with the sounds of merchants calling out their wares, the clink of coins exchanged, the bustle of the marketplace as people gather to trade goods and gossip. The worker, still sweeping, begins to feel the weight of exhaustion settle into their bones. The sun, once soft and cool in the morning haze, is now hot and unforgiving. Their clothes cling to their skin, damp with sweat, but they do not stop. There is no time to rest. The broom never stops moving. The work never ends. The streets must be kept clean for the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. In the quiet spaces between the noise of the day, when the worker is alone with their thoughts, they wonder if anyone will ever see them. They wonder if anyone will ever understand the way of the work they do, the endless labor of clearing away the refuse of the city, of making it appear whole again, even as it breaks apart with every passing moment. But these thoughts are fleeting. The worker knows that to think such things is to invite sorrow. They are here to do their job, to serve, and to remain invisible. As the sun begins to set, the street cleaner's task is nearly done. The piles of refuse that were once scattered across the cobblestones have been gathered and carted away, the streets cleared for another night. The worker stands still for a moment, looking out over the city they have cleaned, feeling a strange sense of fulfillment. There is no applause, no recognition, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing that tomorrow the streets will be ready for another day, and the worker will be there again, sweeping the filth away, unseen, unnoticed, but always there. The night comes again, a dark, quiet blanket that descends over the town, and once again, the worker will begin their task, moving through the streets as they always do, pushing the filth into piles, sweeping away the remnants of another day. And as the town sleeps, they will work, silent, anonymous, uncelebrated, but their labor will endure as it always has. The early morning air is crisp, the kind of cold that bites at the skin but leaves the earth beneath your feet still damp with the remnants of the night's dew. The town lies quiet, almost reverent in its slumber, as the first light of day begins to leak over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rooftops. The chimneys, tall and stately, rise like ancient sentinels, their smoke chiming softly into the gray sky as the last remnants of winter freeze linger in the air. The figure of the chimney sweep emerges from the shadows, cloaked in dark wool, face obscured by the hood of a tattered cloak. It is a worker of the most despised trade in the town, one that is never spoken of unless absolutely necessary, a labor so grim and filthy that its name is often avoided entirely. Yet, for those who work it, there is no choice. There is no escaping the cold morning hours when the streets are still dark and empty, and only the faint glow of lantern light guides the path to the hearts of the nobility, the merchants, the castle towers, those who, behind closed doors, burn wood to warm their homes, while the sweeper remains unseen in the smoke-filled shadows. With the first call of the rooster, the sweep makes his way to his cart, the iron wheels creaking under the weight of the tools of his trade, brooms of coarse bristles, brushes bound in leather, ropes, and brushes made of bone and iron, each one crafted with a grim sort of care. They are the tools of a trade that requires precision but offers little in return, hands that will be stained black with soot, skin that will wear thin with years of harsh contact with ash and grime. But there is no time to think about such things now. The first sweep of the broom must come soon, as there is work to be done. The town is still asleep, but the sweep is already climbing the stone steps that lead to the roof of a large manor. Each footstep echoes through the narrow alleyways, bouncing off the walls of cold stone houses, but there is no one to hear it. His footsteps are as invisible as the labor he performs, necessary but unnoticed, like the smoke rising from the chimney stacks behind him. There is only the work, and it must be done before the sun rises fully, before the household wakes and demands warmth and light. Once on the roof, the sweep stands for a moment, staring out across the town. The wind is sharp, stinging against his exposed face, but the view is strangely peaceful. The world below him is still sleeping, unaware of the work that is being done high above them. The sweep's eyes narrow slightly, his breath forming a soft cloud in the early morning air. He has done this for years, climbed roofs in the dead of night and early morning, and each time it feels the same exhaustion, the same silent detachment. It is a strange kind of peace he has come to know, a peace born not from rest, but from the knowledge that he is always at the edge of the world, never quite part of it. He turns his attention back to the task at hand. The chimney before him is already cloaked in shadow, its dark mouth yawning wide in front of him. He sets down his tools and looks up, feeling the familiar weight of his work settle onto his shoulders like a heavy cloak. The soot and ash in the previous fires still cling to the walls of the flue, thick and stubborn, like the residue of past lives that have burned their way through the hearth. But none of that matters. The sweep's task is to clear it all away, to scrub the walls of the chimney clean, to let the air move freely once more. His hands are steady as he begins, working the brush into the flue, forcing it down into the dark, narrow space. The smell of old smoke clings to the walls of the chimney, thick and acrid, and the worker inhales deeply, his lungs filled with the sharp sting of soot and ash. The smell is nothing new to him. It is as familiar as the air itself, though no less difficult to bear. He can feel the grime settling into cracks of his hands, beneath his nails, into the creases of his skin. He does not flinch. He has long ago learned that to flinch is to waste energy. The work is hard and filthy, but it is necessary, and that is all that matters. As the broom scrapes against the stone, he pulls it free and glances down the length of the flue, where the soot accumulates in thick black layers. The walls are slick with oil and residue. The greasy grime of hundreds of fires burn in the hearts of the house. It is a labor of constant repetition, scraping, brushing, pulling, until the walls are cleared, until the chimney can breathe again. It is a job that requires strength, persistence, and, above all, patience. The sweep is not one to rush, not one to work recklessly. This is a delicate task, a task where precision matters, for a careless mistake could cause an entire house to catch fire, the heat of an untended chimney left unchecked for too long. A moment's negligence could cost lives. The sweep's breath is shallow now, his face covered in the fine dust that clings to his skin, his hair dark with soot. He wipes his brow with the back of his hand, but it does little to alleviate the discomfort. His cloak, once dark, is now a stained mess of black and gray, the fabric worn thin from years of use. There is no vanity in this work, no hope of ever seeing the sun again with clean hands, no chance of ever walking through the streets without leaving a trail of soot in his wake. The dust sticks to him, an unwelcome companion that never fully disappears, even when the day is done. But there is, perhaps, some comfort in the routine, in the quiet of it all. There are no demands, no one to judge him, no one to see the grime beneath his nails or the ache in his back from climbing to the rooftops day after day. He is alone in the silence, and in that silence he finds a strange solace. It is the silence of labor, the silence of someone who has long since stopped expecting anything more than the satisfaction of a task well done. The house, for all its grandeur, feels distant and detached from him. It is a world of wealth and comfort, a world that does not touch him, that is not meant for him. The people who live here, noblemen, merchants, those with names are spoken with reverence, are nowhere be found. They are still asleep, still wrapped in their soft blankets, unaware of the labor that goes on above them. They will wake to the warmth of their fires, to the comfort of their well-kept homes, but they will never know the price of that warmth. They will never know the one who cleared the chimney, who breathed in the dust and soot, so that they might rest easy in their beds. The sweep pulls the brush free and shakes the soot off, his hands black from the task. It is nearly done now, the flue cleared, the chimney clean. He gathers his tools, wrapping in the cloth that he always keeps close to him. The work, once completed, will be forgotten just as quickly as it was done. No one will thank him. No one will acknowledge the effort he has put in. In the world of the rich and the powerful, he is an invisible thing, unseen and unimportant, except for the moment when his labor is required. As he descends from a roof and walks through the narrow, shadowed streets, he knows that this will be his life. Always. He will climb the roofs. He will scrub the chimneys. He will work in the dark and in the cold, and no one will ever truly see him. The soot will always be a part of him, marking him as someone who works in the shadows, someone whose existence is defined by the grime and dirt of the world. The worker pauses at the edge of the market square, as the first rays of sunlight break over the horizon, illuminating the bustling scene below. The town is waking up, its merchants setting up their stalls, children running through the streets, the townsfolk beginning their daily routine. They move through the streets, unaware of the sweat and grime that has been wiped from the stones to make the town livable, unaware of the labor that has made their morning warm, their hearts safe. And for a moment, the sweep stands still, watching them before moving on. His work is done. The chimney is clean. The world will continue, as it always does, and no one will ever remember the one who made it possible. The first light of dawn breaks through the slats of a wooden window, casting slivers of pale gold upon the earth below. The town is still cloaked in the quiet of early morning, but in the small, grimy yard at the edge of town, the pungent odor of decay fills the air. It is a smell that clings to everything. The tattered cloak of the tanner, his hands, his skin, and the very walls of his workshop. This is not the smell of life, but of death, a smell born of animal carcasses, of rotting hides, and the slow, relentless process of turning flesh into something that endures, something useful. The tanner stands in the midst of it all, his thick, calloused hands gripping the knife as he begins the morning's work. The carcasses of cattle, sheep, and goats lie scattered about the yard, their skins still fresh with the warmth of their former lives. The smell is overpowering, sour and sharp, mixed with the sting of earth and blood, and the acrid scent of urine that soaks into the ground beneath his feet. To any other person, this would be unbearable, a suffocating assault on the senses. But for the tanner, it is a familiar fragrance, one he has known all his life. The tanner's hands move with practiced skill, slicing through the tough layers of skin that will eventually become leather. His fingers are stained with dark oils, his nails cracked and yellowed from years of exposure to the chemicals used in his craft. He works quickly, though there is no hurry in his movements. His work is methodical, deliberate, each stroke of the knife calculated with the precision of someone who has spent decades perfecting their craft. The leather he will create from these hides is invaluable, used for clothing, armor, boots, saddles, and all manner of goods that will pass through the hands of the wealthy. But none of that matters to him right now. All that matters is the work itself, the process of transforming death into something durable, something that will outlast the fleeting nature of life. The tanner's workshop is a dark, cramped space, filled with tools of every shape and size, knives, scrapers, hammers, and wooden barrels filled with brine and chemicals that will strip the flesh from hides. The air inside is thick with the scent of tannin, a bitter, astringent smell that burns the throat. Yet, despite the discomfort, the tanner is at peace in this place. This is his world, his sanctuary, and in the quiet, grimy corners of the workshop, he can lose himself in the labor of his hands. His body is worn from years of stooping, bending, and lifting. His joints ache, the weight of his work settling deep into his bones. Yet there is something about the repetition, the rhythm of his task, that eases his mind. The slicing of the skin, the scraping away of flesh, the slow, deliberate soaking in chemicals, all of it is part of a dance he knows well. Each hide, each piece of leather, becomes an extension of him, an imprint of his work that will last long after he is gone. The work is not glamorous, nor is it a task that attracts praise. Few are willing to acknowledge the tanner's role in the world. He is one of those workers whose labor is hidden behind closed doors, unseen by the wealthier townsfolk, who are the leather goods he creates. The tanner is an outcast of sorts, his craft deemed unpleasant, even repulsive. There are those who will not speak to him, those who will not look him in the eye. for his work is associated with death, decay, and the unpleasantness of life's darker realities. Yet the tanner does not mind this isolation. He has grown used to it, just as he has grown used to the smell of the hides, the sting of chemicals in his eyes, and the weight of his heavy work boots that sink into muck as he moves about the yard. There is a strange comfort in being forgotten, in being ignored by the world outside. It allows him to focus entirely on the work, to immerse himself in the texture of the leather, the feel of the raw material beneath his fingertips. It is a form of quiet control, a refuge from a world that does not appreciate the value of his labor. As the morning deepens, the tanner begins to dip the hides into large vats filled with a mixture of water, tannin, and other secret ingredients that have been passed down through generations of tanners. The hides slowly begin to change in the liquid, their soft, raw surface slowly hardening, taking on the rich brown color of cured leather. The tanner watches intently, his hands moving from vat to vat, ensuring the hides are properly soaked, that the process is carried out with the utmost care. It is a delicate balance. Too much soaking and the leather becomes brittle, too little, and it will remain too soft, too weak to be used. The sun is now high in the sky, the heat pressing down on the town with relentless force. But inside the tanner's workshop, the air remains cool and damp, filled with the scent of the hides and the sharp tang of chemicals. The tanner moves from one barrel to the next, checking each hide, scraping away any excess fat or tissue that remains. He is methodical in his movements, never rushing, never allowing himself to be distracted. This is a tanner's life, one of patience, endurance, and a quiet understanding that every hide, every piece of leather, tells its own story. Some come from animals that lived long lives, their hides thick and tough. Others come from creatures that met untimely deaths, their skin thin and fragile like the lives that pass too quickly. As the day wears on, the tanner begins to stretch the leather over a wooden frame, working it with practiced skill, pulling and pressing it into shape. The leather is soft now, pliable under his hands, and the tanner takes great care in ensuring it is worked to perfection. He knows that this leather will become something important. Perhaps a soldier's armor, perhaps the gloves of a noblewoman, perhaps the saddlebags of a merchant on his way to a distant town. He is, in some ways, shaping the future with his hands. Even though no one will ever remember him when they were the product of his labor, the tanner is just a name, a forgotten soul behind the scenes. But in this moment, as he works the leather, he feels the weight of his purpose. His labor will leave an imprint, one that will endure. Despite his satisfaction, there is a part of him that longs for something more. The tanner has known his role in life from a young age. This is what his father did, what his grandfather did, what his great-grandfather did before him. It is a tradition that has been passed down through generations, a craft that is essential to the fabric of society, yet so often ignored. He has never known anything else, and perhaps that is the greatest sadness of all, that his entire existence has been shaped by a craft that is neither celebrated nor admired. He will never sit at the banquet tables of the rich or be lauded for his work. He is a ghost in the corner of society, always present, but never truly seen. And yet, there is a strange dignity in that invisibility. In the quiet of his workshop, the tanner has created something that will outlast him, something that will endure beyond the confines of his small world. His leather will find its way into the hands of others, even if they never know his name. The saddlebags that carry trade from one town to another, the boots that protect the feet of soldiers, the gloves that warm the hands of the wealthy, all of them will carry with them a trace of his labor, a mark of the work he has done, even if the world will never acknowledge it. As the day ends, the tanner wipes his brow, his skin slick with sweat and grime. The leather is now finished, the work done for the day. He leans against the rough wood of the workshop, taking in the sight of his finished product. It is beautiful in its own way, imperfect, weathered, but strong, enduring. He knows that tomorrow the work will begin again. More hides will come, more carcasses will be stripped, more leather will be tanned. The cycle is endless, as relentless as the need for his craft. But for now, there is peace in the work that has been done, and in the quiet solitude of his workshop, the tanner allows himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The city is silent, wrapped in the shroud of night. It is a darkness that presses down upon everything, a heavy, suffocating quiet that stirs only when the wind rises, carry with the distant, mournful sound of the bell tolling in the church tower. Beneath the towers and the watchful eyes of the city's walls, the streets remain still, empty, abandoned, and cold. The moon hangs high in the sky, its pale light cutting through the fog that clings to the cobblestones, casting long shadows that stretch across the alleyways and into the forgotten corners of the town. Yet in the heart of this desolate silence, a figure moves, a lone man, wrapped in a heavy cloak that does little to ward off the chill of the night air. The watchman, a solitary soul entrusted with grim and unseen duty, walks through the streets as though he were a shadow among shadows. His hands, callous and rough, grip a heavy wooden staff. The only sound in the otherwise quiet world the dull thud of his footsteps against the stones beneath him. His task is not one that anyone would seek, nor one that anyone would ever volunteer for. But it is a job that must be done, even if no one is willing to speak of it. As the town sleeps, he is the one who moves through the darkness, seeking out the dead that lie discarded in the streets, those who have fallen to sickness, misfortune, or violence. They are forgotten ones, their lives extinguished without ceremony, left behind like refuse in the corners of the world that others choose to ignore. He has seen it all. The sickly beggars who succumbed to plague, the young children whose small lives were snatched away by fever, the old men whose bones had grown too brittle, their bodies too frail to survive the harshness of the world. There are the ones who died from injury, struck down in the heat of a tavern brawl, or crushed beneath the wheels of a cart. The watchman does not ask why they died. He does not care. His job is simple. Remove them, take them away, and make the streets safe again. The city streets are no place of the dead. In life, the townsfolk walk these roads with pride, heads held high, their feet firm upon the ground. But in death, everything changes. The living cannot bear to see it, to confront the reality of their own mortality, the fragility of their existence. And so, it is a watchman's job to rid the streets of those reminders, to sweep away the traces of death before the sun rises and the city begins to stir once more. Tonight, the watchman moves through the streets slowly, his lantern swinging gently from his side, casting a faint glow upon the stones. His steps are measured, cautious, as though he is moving through a world that is not quite real. His cloak is heavy, a weight that drags against his shoulders, but it is not the cloak that weighs most heavily upon him. It is the knowledge of what he must do. The dead are not easily forgotten, even when their bodies are taken away. They linger in the corners of the town, in the empty spaces between the buildings, in the silent shadows of the alleyways. They are the ghosts of the city, the ones who are no longer part of the world, but whose absence is felt nonetheless. He comes upon first body of the night, a man, his clothes ragged, his face twisted in a final expression of agony. The watchman bends down to examine him, his breath misting in the cold air as he surveys the scene. The man's hands are curled into tight fists, as though he struggled to hold on to life even as it slipped away. The watchman does not hesitate. He has seen this before, too many times. The dead are not to be mourned. They are simply to be removed. With a practiced motion, the watchman lifts the body, his hands cold but steady. The weight of the man's lifeless form is heavy, but it is a weight he has learned to bear. He has carried the dead for years, ever since he was a young man, before the job took its toll on his body, before the constant lifting and bending had worn him down. The stench of decay clings to the man's clothes, a smell that had become familiar to the watchman over the years, though it never ceases to unsettle him. He does not look at the man's face again as he hoists the body onto his shoulders and begins to walk. The lantern swings back and forth with each step, its flickering light casting fleeting shadows across the empty streets. The watchman's breath is shallow, his steps deliberate, as though he is trying to avoid disturbing the delicate balance between life and death. The dead, once removed, will no longer belong to the world. They will be taken to the graveyard at the edge of the town, where the earth will swallow them up, and they will be forgotten, as though they had never existed. This is the way of things, the way it has always been. In the morning, the living will resume their business, and no one will remember the dead. The watchman carries the body to the edge of the town, where the graveyard looms in the distance. The path is long, winding through the fields and past the ancient stone wall that marks the boundary of the town. The moon is bright now, casting its pale light across the landscape, and the air is so still that the watchman can hear the soft rustle of the dead man's cloak as it brushes against his shoulders. The weight of the body presses against him, and for a moment he feels the burden of his work more deeply than usual. He wonders, not for the first time, about the lives of those he carries. Who were they? What did they dream of? What stories did they have to tell? But these thoughts pass as quickly as they come, for the watchman knows that such things do not matter. The dead have no need for stories. They have no need for memories or regrets. They are simply bodies, shells that must be carried away and discarded. The living must go on, and they can do so only if they are freed from the reminder of their own fragility. As he reaches the graveyard, the watchman pauses for a moment, looking down at the rows of graves that stretch out before him. The earth is hard, cold, and unyielding beneath his feet. The tombstones, weathered by time, stand like sentinels over forgotten dead. He walks past them, his lantern casting an eerie glow on the moss-covered stones. The wind picks up now, carrying with it the scent of earth and decay. It is a scent that is both familiar and unsettling, a reminder of the eternal cycle of life and death. The watchman stops at a secluded corner of the graveyard, where a freshly dug hole waits for the body. He kneels down and gently places the man into the grave, his hands shaking slightly from the weight of the labor. The grave is shallow, a quick burial for a body that will soon be lost to time. He covers the man with dirt, pushing the earth back into the hole with a spade, his movement steady and precise. When the grave is filled, he stands and looks down at the freshly turned earth, the body now swallowed up by the soil. For a moment, there is silence. The watchman stands alone in the graveyard, his lantern casting a dim light over the tombstones, and the night seems to stretch on forever. The dead are gone now, hidden beneath the earth, their bodies no longer a burden on the world above. The watchman's task is complete, but the weight of it lingers in the air, pressing against his chest. He turns and begins to walk back toward the town, his steps slow and heavy, his breath still visible in the cold night air. There is no sense of triumph in his heart, no feeling of accomplishment. This is simply his work, the work that has been handed down to him, that he has done for years without question, without hesitation. He is a man of shadows, a keeper of the forgotten, and when the sun rises, no one will remember the labor he has performed, the bodies he has carried, or the lives he has buried. The streets are still empty as he returns, the lantern swinging gently in his hand, casting its light across the cobblestones. The town will awaken soon, and the living will return to their lives, oblivious of the work that has been done to keep them safe, to keep them from confronting the reality of death that lurks in the corners of their world. The watchman, however, will always be there, moving through the shadows, carrying the dead, and making the streets safe for another day. The sun has barely begun to stretch its golden fingers over the horizon, and already the streets are alive with the sound of horses' hooves and merchants setting up their stalls. In the early hours of the morning, while the rest of the town still sleeps in warmth and comfort, there is another world, a world of shadows and filth, where the stench of human refuse fills the air. The gong farmer emerges from the dim light of his home, a small, forgotten cottage at the edge of the town. His boots are heavy, caked in mud from the previous night's work, and the smell clings to him, an unpleasant mixture of decay, sourness, and rot. It is a smell that has become part of him, one that will never quite leave his skin, no matter how much he scrubs. The task he faces today is no different from the one he faced yesterday or the day before. It is a labor that will continue until the day he dies, an endless cycle of filth and labor that seems, in its own way, eternal. The gong farmer has no pride in his work. Few do. He is one of the lowest men in the town's hierarchy, a worker whose presence is often forgotten, whose labor is neither recognized nor appreciated. But someone must do it. Someone must clean the cesspits and latrines, remove the refuse from beneath the streets, and ensure that the city remains livable. For all the bustling life above, for all the commerce and trade, there is an ugliness beneath it all, a filthy, stinking underbelly that must be maintained if the town is to survive. The gong farmer pauses for a moment, looking out over the town he serves. The air is cool, the smell of fresh bread baking wafts through the streets, and the sound of the early risers begin to reach his ears. But the gong farmer does not share in the warmth of the day, the comfort of fire, or the luxury of sleep. His world is different, one of constant motion, of sweat and grime, where each step is burdened with the weight of his work. The town above him carries on, oblivious to his presence, to the labor he performs in the dead of night and at the break of dawn. His first stop is the latrine of the town's inn, a foul-smelling structure tucked away at the back of the building. It is a building like any other in the town. Stone walls, wooden beams, thatched roof, but its purpose is far less glamorous. It serves a singular, grim function: to contain the waste of the inn's guests who, after a night of drinking and feasting, have left their mark on its floors. The latrine is not just a place to relieve oneself. It is a breeding ground for disease, a source of filth and discomfort that the Gong farmer must clean day after day. The odor that greets him as he approaches the latrine is suffocating. The stench of urine, excrement, and rot fills the air, seeping from the cracks in the wooden structure and curling into the still morning air. The Gong farmer has grown used to it over the years, but it still makes his stomach churn and his mouth tightens into a grimace as he takes in the smell. His work is one of necessity, not choice, and he pushes forward, steeling himself against the revolting reality of the task. With his heavy wooden shovel, the Gong farmer begins a process of emptying the latrine. The work is as grim as it sounds. The sludge, thick and viscous, sticks to his tools and splashes back onto his skin. His cloak, already worn thin from years of use, is soon covered in the same filth that coats the walls of the latrine. The task is exhausting, physically demanding and unpleasant beyond measure. But there is no room for hesitation, no time for disgust. The job must be done. The Gong farmer's hands are rough, cracked from years of exposure to the elements and the constant scraping of waste from the cesspits. His fingers are stained with grime, his nails broken and worn down to the quick. The work has left its mark on him, in ways both visible and invisible. His body aches from the strain of lifting and hauling, his muscles sore from the repetitive motions. His back is hunched from bending over the latrines, his face weathered and lined with the years of labor. The world above him, those who enjoy the comfort of warm beds and hearty meals, will never understand the toll it takes to keep their lives running smoothly. The work is not just unpleasant, it is dangerous. The cesspits are a breeding ground for disease, and the Gong farmer is constantly at risk of contracting one of the many illnesses that plague the city. Typhoid, cholera, dysentery. These are all diseases that lurk in the waste he handles daily, diseases that could strike him down at any moment. But he carries on, for there is no choice. If he does not remove the waste, the town will become uninhabitable. If he does not clean the latrines, the stench will become unbearable, and the people will suffer. The Gong farmer works in silence, the only sound to squelch the muck and the scrape of his shovel against the wood and stone. He has long since stopped speaking to anyone. There is no one to talk to, no one who will want to hear his thoughts. The townsfolk avoid him, shun him, for he is a reminder of the things they prefer not to acknowledge: the dirt beneath their feet, the waste that builds up behind closed doors. To the people of the town, the Gong farmer is little more than an unpleasant necessity, a figure to be ignored until his work is needed. They do not thank him, do not offer him food or drink, and certainly do not invite him into their homes. He is an invisible worker, the one who moves through the shadows, making sure that everything remains clean above, even as he delves deeper into the filth below. As the latrine is emptied and the task moves on to the next, the Gong farmer's mind wanders, though he does not have the luxury of time for reflection. He thinks of the faces he has seen over the years, the lords and ladies who dine in their grand halls, the merchants who haggle over goods, the soldiers who march through the streets. None of them know him, none of them care for him. They walk their clean streets, their pristine homes, unaware of the labor that goes into making their world livable. For them, the filth is invisible. For him, it is his entire existence. He moves to the next cesspit, one belonging to a family of merchants, their wealth obvious in the finely crafted stone of their house and the expensive fabrics draped across their windows. The Gong farmer knows the merchants do not care for him, for no one who holds wealth in the town does. They see him only as a means to an end, a person who does a job they would rather forget. He has no name to them, no history, no face. He is nothing more than the hand that cleans the mess they leave behind. But there are moments, small and fleeting, when the Gong farmer wonders what it would be like to be remembered. To walk through the town without the stench of his labor clinging to him, to enter a tavern and be greeted with warmth instead of turned backs. He knows that such things are beyond him, but the thought lingers nonetheless. It is a thought that brings no joy, but a kind of sorrow, the sorrow of knowing that his life, his work, will never be seen, never be acknowledged. The gong farmer finishes his work as the sun rises higher in the sky, and the town begins to stir. The streets grow louder, filled with the sound of merchants setting up their stalls, children running through the streets, and a clatter of carts hauling goods from one place to another. The town is alive with a hum of activity, and yet, in the midst of it all, the gong farmer remains invisible. His task is complete, and once again, the town is clean, the waste removed. But no one will thank him. No one will notice. He walks back to his small cottage, his back aching from the work, his hands still caked in grime. The smell will linger on him, but there is no way to escape it. It is a part of him, as much a part of his existence as the labor he performs. He is the invisible worker, the one who cleans the mess of the world without asking for recognition, without expecting anything in return. As the day goes on, the town above will continue. Unaware of the man who labors beneath them, the gong farmer will continue his work, day after day, sweeping away the filth, removing the waste, and ensuring that the town remains livable. And when the night falls again, he will begin his task anew, ready to face the dirt, the muck, and the refuse that will never cease to accumulate. The sun has long since vanished beneath a canopy of dark clouds, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. There is no peace in the town tonight, only the ceaseless clamor of the sick, the desperate, and the dying. The streets that were once filled with laughter, market chatter, and the clinking of wares are now hollow, abandoned spaces. The air itself feels thick, as though it has been poisoned by something unseen, something that has crept to the cracks of the town's defenses and taken root in the hearts of its people. It is in this darkened, silent world that the figure of the plague doctor emerges, clad in a long wax coat, designed to protect against the filth he is about to encounter, and a wide-brimmed hat. The doctor is a shadow among shadows. His face is obscured by the iconic beak-shaped mask, which is stuffed with herbs, spices, and perfumes, meant to protect him from the noxious fumes of the disease that sweeps through the city. To the townsfolk, he is both a symbol of hope and a harbinger of doom. When he appears, it means the plague has arrived and the end is near. Tonight, the air is suffocating with the stench of death, the scent of burning bodies, and the putrid odor of disease that hangs thick in every corner of the town. The streets are empty. Those who are not already will cower in their homes, locking their doors and praying that the sickness does not touch them. The only sounds that break the oppressive silence are the whispers of those who wait, waiting for their own inevitable end. The plague doctor walks through the narrow, winding streets, his boots heavy with each step. His cloak drags behind him, the worn fabric a reflection of the years of service he has given to this grim task. He is not alone in his role. There are others, though fewer than before. Once, there were many who wore the mask, men and women who offered what little medical expertise they could muster in the face of an invisible and deadly foe. But in this town, as in so many others, the plague has taken its toll. Those who could flee have done so, and only the most desperate or the most devoted remain. He stops before a small house, its door ajar, a faint light flickering inside. There is no sound coming from within, but the doctor knows what he will find. He has been to hundreds of homes like this before, where the disease has already claimed its victim, where the air is thick with the scent of sweat, fever, and rot. The house belongs to a family of merchants, wealthy, once proud. The doctor has heard rumors of their decline. Once they had all the trappings of a comfortable life, fine clothing, well-cooked meals, and the finest wine. Now they lie silent, their wealth rendered meaningless in the face of an unstoppable enemy. He enters the home, his gloved hands brushing against a wooden door as it creaks open. The interior is dark, save for the dim light of a candle burning on a low table in the corner. The floor is covered in a thin film of dust, the scent of old food and the faint traces of sickness seeping into the room. On the bed, a woman lies, her body pale, her breathing shallow. The doctor can see the telltale signs, the swollen lymph nodes, the purple-black blotches on her skin. Her breathing is ragged, a horrible rasping sound that echoes through the room. He moves toward her slowly, cautiously. There is no hope here. There never was. The disease is already spread, and the woman is beyond the point of recovery. Still, there's a ritual to be performed, one that he has carried out 1,000 times before. He reaches into his cloak and pulls out a small vial of ointment, rubbing it into his hands as he prepares to approach the patient. The smell of herbs fills the room, mingling with the stench of sickness. The mask he wears, stuffed with aromatic herbs, keeps the worst of the smells at bay, but it does little to ease the weight of the work that lies ahead. His heart feels heavy as he reaches for the woman's wrist, checking for a pulse that is faint but still present. He listens to her rasping breath, and for a moment, he feels the futility of it all, the endless cycle of death, the helplessness in the face of disease that no one understands, that no one can control. It is a feeling he has come to know all too well. It is a feeling that lingers in his chest, gnawing at him even when he is away from his patients, when he is alone with his thoughts. The plague doctor does not speak. He has learned over the years that words bring no comfort to those who are dying. Instead, he focuses on the task at hand, carefully adjusting the woman's position, taking note of the telltale signs of the disease's progress. Her eyes are glassy now, unfocused, and her body is covered in sweat, a cold, sticky film that clings to her skin. As he works, he reflects on the years he has spent in his profession, how the work has changed him, how the weight of so much death has slowly eroded any sense of optimism he once carried. When he was younger, he believed that he could make a difference, that he could somehow find a cure, a remedy that would allow him to save even just one life. But now, after so many years of this work, he knows better. The plague is relentless. It has no mercy, no rhyme or reason. It takes what it wants, and all the doctor can do is watch, offering what little aid he can, knowing full well that it is rarely enough. The doctor applies a cloth soaked in vinegar to the woman's forehead, a crude remedy meant to ease a fever, to cool the burning heat of the sickness. It is an ancient practice, one that has been passed down through generations, but it offers little more than a fleeting sense of relief. He can see the woman's lips trembling, her body jerking in the final stages of fever. Her death is imminent, and he knows there is nothing more he can do. He stands for a moment, his hand still resting gently on her wrist, feeling the weakening pulse. The woman's eyes flicker, and for a brief moment, their gazes lock. In that fleeting instant, the doctor sees not the patient, not the person stricken with disease, but a reflection of himself, an individual who has long ago surrendered any hope of personal salvation. The doctor sees her in his own face, a reminder of the inevitable fate that awaits everyone, no matter their wealth, no matter their status. The plague respects no titles or riches. It is an equalizer, taking all who stand before it. The woman's breathing stops abruptly, and the doctor knows that she is gone. There is no dramatic gasp for air, no final cry. She simply fades away, leaving behind only a body, still, cold, and empty. The doctor steps back, feeling the heaviness in his chest, the sorrow he can no longer allow himself to feel. His job is to remove the dead, to prepare the bodies for burial, and to move on to the next. There is no room for mourning, no room for grief. His work has become nothing more than a series of motions, one body after another, one death after another. He leaves the house, stepping back into the cold, dark streets. The night air feels heavy against his cloak, as if it too carries the weight of the disease that has taken root in the town. He walks from house to house, checking for those who are still alive, offering the same treatments he has used 1,000 times before: herbs, ointments, vinegar cloths, prayers. There is nothing new here, only the relentless cycle of disease and death. The doctor's mask clings tightly to his face, the scent of herbs and spices overwhelming, but there is little to shield him from the weight of the work. His heart grows heavy with every death he witnesses, with every soul he cannot save. He had become part of the plague, a silent witness to its horrors, carrying the burden of sickness without any power to stop it. There are no cheers for him, no thanks, no reward. He is the figure that comes at night, bringing the finality of death without the promise of salvation. And when the dawn rises, he will retreat into shadows once more, a figure of mystery and fear, both necessary and dreaded in equal measure. The sky is heavy with gray clouds, the weight of an impending storm pressing down on the land. The town square, usually bustling with traders and villagers, is now eerily quiet. The air feels thick, as though the very earth is holding its breath. A crowd is gathered, their murmurs a low, anxious hum, as they wait for what is to come. At the center of the square stands the executioner's block, a stark, weathered wooden platform, its dark surface stained with the echoes of countless crimes and punishments. The square is draped in a heavy silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of the crowd, shifting uneasily in anticipation of the spectacle that will soon unfold. The executioner stands at the far side of the square, hidden in the shadows of the nearby building, his face obscured by the dark hood of his cloak. He does not need to be seen by the crowd, nor does he wish to be. The executioner is a figure apart, a necessary presence in a world that demands justice, but a figure that carries with the stigma of death. To the people, he is a symbol of finality, of violence, of the irreversible consequences of wrongdoing. And yet, though they fear him, they also need him. Without the executioner, the delicate balance of the town would crumble, and law and order would be replaced by chaos and anarchy. The executioner takes a deep breath, feeling the familiar weight of his task settle upon his shoulders. It is a burden he's carried for many years, years that have made him callous, numb to the cries and pleas of the condemned. He has seen too many faces, heard too many desperate last words, to let any of it reach him now. The task is clear: deliver justice without mercy, without hesitation. There is no room for pity, no room for compassion. The law must be upheld, and he is the one chosen to enforce it, no matter the personal cost. In the distance, the sound of hooves signals the arrival of the condemned. The crowd stirs, and a ripple of anticipation spreads through the onlookers. A cart appears, drawn by 2 horses, its wheels creaking under the weight of the prisoners. The executioner can see the prisoners now, shackled and bound, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. Some of them are young, no older than children, while others are middle-aged, their hair graying at the temples. They are all here for the same reason. They have broken the law, and now they must pay the ultimate price. The executioner steps forward, his boots making soft thuds against the cobblestones. His hands are steady, but his heart pounds in his chest. This is not his first execution. Far from it, but each one brings with it a new weight, a new layer of guilt. It is not the act itself that burdens him. It is a knowledge that, in a way, he is as much a part of the death as the condemned. His blade will be the one to end their lives, his hands the ones that will guide them into the next world. The cart stops in front of the block, and the prisoners are let out, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. They know what awaits them. The townspeople watch silently, their eyes fixed on the executioner, some with grim fascination, others with unease. They are there to witness justice, but also to satiate a darker curiosity, the same curiosity that has drawn crowds to public executions for centuries. They want to see the condemned brought low, to watch the moment of reckoning, to be reminded that even the most powerful can fall. The executioner steps forward, his heavy axe resting in his hands. He looks at the first prisoner, a young man, no older than 20. His hands are bound in front of him, and he is shaking, his knees buckling beneath him. The executioner sees the fear in his eyes, the terror of facing the end of his life. The young man looks up at him, his lips moving as though to speak, but no words come out. There is no time for speeches, no time for bargaining. The law has already been passed, the sentence delivered. The young man has been condemned, and now he must face the consequences. The executioner raises his axe, his eyes never leaving the prisoner. The crowd falls silent, holding its collective breath. Time seems to stretch, as if the entire world is waiting for the final moment. And then, with a swift motion, the executioner brings the axe down. It strikes with a dull thud, and the young man falls, his head severed from his body in a clean, efficient motion. There is no sound, no drama, just the finality of the act. The crowd reacts, some with relief, others with revulsion. The executioner does not look at them. He does not look at the young man's body, nor does he acknowledge the weight of what has just transpired. He simply steps back, the task done. He watches as the body is carried away, and the next prisoner is brought forward. This process repeats itself. Each death is methodical as the last. The executioner's hands do not tremble. His face does not show emotion. He is a machine, a tool of justice, delivering the punishment as it has been prescribed. His mind is empty of thoughts. There is no room for anything but the task at hand. Each swing of the axe is another step in the ritual, another soul sent into the unknown. He feels the weight of it, though he does not allow himself to acknowledge it. He cannot afford to. The crowd continues to watch, some in silence, others whispering amongst themselves. But the executioner knows that they are not just watching condemned, they are watching him. He is the one they fear, the one they loathe. His presence is a reminder of the law's power, but also the dark side of humanity. The part that demands blood for blood, justice for transgression, punishment for sin. The final prisoner is led forward, an older man with graying hair and a stooped back. He looks at the executioner with resignation in his eyes, as though he has already accepted his fate. There is no fear left in him, only the quiet acceptance of death. The executioner steps forward once more, raising his axe. The man does not flinch, does not try to run. He simply stands there, waiting for the blow, and in that moment, the executioner feels a strange stirring within him. It is not pity, not sympathy, but something else, an understanding, perhaps, of the burden that has been placed on both of them. This man, too, is a victim of the law, a product of a world that demands sacrifice, that values order over life. And the executioner is the one who must deliver that sacrifice, the one who must take life in the name of justice. It is a role that has shaped him, defined him, and isolated him from the rest of the world. He lowers the axe, his hands trembling for the first time that day. The execution is clean, the man's life extinguished with a single stroke. And once again, the task is complete. The crowd disperses, some satisfied with the outcome, others unsettled by the grim display. The executioner stands alone in the center of the square, the weight of the day's work settling upon him like a shroud. He looks down at the blood-stained axe in his hands, the heavy weight of the metal pressing against his palms. He wonders, for the briefest of moments, what it would be like to put down the axe, to walk away from this life. But he knows that there is no walking away. Not for him, not for someone like him. The executioner turns and walks away, disappearing into the shadows of the town, his cloak billowing behind him. The town will continue. Life will go on, but the memory of his actions will remain. He will be forgotten in time, as all such figures are, but the echoes of his work will linger in the streets, in the whispers of the people who witness the day's events. He is the man who kills for justice, but in the end, he is just as much a prisoner of his role as the ones he executes.